Welcome to the Richard Sherman podcast. If you're new, hit that sub button. We're here to give you great NFL content. Stay tuned. Well, let's go to your favorite segment of the day, Mitchell.
Let's do it. Let's go to the buy or sell. And we got some stuff to buy or sell here. We're going to start in Indianapolis. This is something that the Cleveland Browns probably thought of a little bit last year, and they're probably thinking about a little bit now, but they don't have the luxury of having Joe Flacco on their team anymore. Richard, you're buying or selling Joe Flacco should be the starter in Indy going forward?
Well, it depends. And I want to be straight, and I want to say buy or sell, but if Anthony Richardson, if you're talking about the future of this franchise, you're going to go with Anthony Richardson because you have to have him learn. You have to have him learn on the job to get his nicks, to figure it out. But it goes back to our conversation. Should a top draft pick, a high drafted player sit behind a veteran? And I'm in the camp that he should. And so I buy that. Joe Flacco is a more NFL ready quarterback right now, more ready to take the Indianapolis Colts and win games they should win. Now, is he going to astound with incredible 70-yard passes on the money to his best receiver? No, I don't think he is. He's going to get the ball where it's supposed to be. He's going to move the ball down the field. He's going to make adjustments. If he sees the coverage he wants to get, he's going to check out of certain things, get to the runs. He's going to run the game like an offensive coordinator expects the game to be run. He's from that old guard. He's from the old guard of quarterbacks that before they start making everything RPO and Blues Clues. You know, everything is green eggs and ham right now, Mitchell. These offenses are simplified. They're third grade level math. And he's from the old guard where it used to be trigonometry and algebra and geometry. And so yes, he will be able to come in, and it's just like Andy Dalton. You look at it and you're like, why does this offense look so different in Carolina under Andy Dalton? Because he's from an older guard where they ran different things, where he had to learn, he had to understand, he had to figure it out. I think Anthony Richardson would benefit from sitting behind Joe Flacco and learning how to prepare, learning how to execute a game plan, learning what he sees, having those conversations, seeing how he adjusts within a game, because he came into the NFL and had to play right away. Obviously, he was injured last year and had to sit for a nice part of the season, but I don't know how much he learned, how much he was really absorbing. Obviously, when Joe Flacco came in, I'm sure the Pittsburgh Steelers was like, come on. Like, why? Let us have Anthony Richardson. Let us have the young quarterback who's going to make a few mistakes, hold the ball longer than he should. Not Joe Flacco, who's going to know where he's going with the ball, who's going to make good decisions. And so I'm buying that Joe Flacco is the right quarterback right now for the Indianapolis Colts, and they'll win some games that they probably wouldn't have won with Anthony Richardson right now in his youth.
I agree with you, Richard. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. He's getting his young players more involved. Josh Downs had a breakout game. Joe Flacco has proven himself to be that guy these last two seasons. I think Indy's got to ride the hot hand. Moving on to the next one, the Philadelphia Eagles facing a lot of injuries right now. Fresh off a loss out of Tampa Bay, the Eagles will miss the playoffs. Buy or sell?
Oh, Mitchell. That is a tough one. Huh. Don't be recency bias. Don't have recency bias. Sell, Mitchell. I'm gonna sell that. They do not look good right now. The Philadelphia Eagles do not look good offensively. That offensive line that's been a foundational staple for them over the last few years does not look good. Lane Johnson's banged up. You don't have Jason Kelce anymore. So now that even the tush push doesn't look as consistent as it used to. Saquon Barkley is a bright spot on that team. He single-handedly took over the New Orleans Saints game, and I think he won that game. Obviously, Jalen Hurts threw for a lot of yards, but without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they're going to struggle through these next couple games. These games will be really important, but they have to weather the storm. They have to go at least 500 in these games until their top receivers come back. But once they come back, I think they'll be fine. Their defense, on the other hand, they have to find answers. Baker Mayfield threw for 347 the other day, moved the ball up and down the field. They were able to run the ball with some success, and that D line that's been an incredible strength for them. At least a couple of years ago. I mean, a couple of years ago they were talking about setting records with the amount of sacks they had, and you're just not seeing that kind of production. Obviously, Hassan Reddick's gone. They've lost some pieces, but Javon Hargrave is in San Francisco. But you expect him to have some semblance of that kind of production. Um, Again, Vic Fangio is their new D coordinator. Maybe there's still an adjustment period to that defense and that scheme. I don't know, but I don't think they're going to they're too talented to miss the playoffs. If they miss the playoffs, um, there's going to be some difficult conversations, and I don't know if it's a hot seat or people are getting moved, but they switched coordinators last year. I don't think they switch them again.
Well, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. We shall see how they return. A.J. Brown coming back at some point here is going to boost that offense, and it's probably going to provide them a little bit more stability. But right now, not looking too good. Moving on to the next topic, the Buffalo Bills. They looked good. They exceeded expectations the first 3 weeks, and then they go on the road in a tough environment against a great opponent in the Baltimore Ravens and take a massive L. Richard, the Bills are pretenders, buy or sell.
I'm selling that. I think the Bills are contenders. I think they just had a rough game. They ran into a buzzsaw on a good day, and they struggled. They ran into a really good defense that understood, how to play them, how to contain them. They didn't get a ton of opportunities, obviously, with the way Baltimore's running the football. They controlled the clock. So I think they get back on track this week versus well, I mean, that'll be the tale. I apologize. This week will show me a lot. I think they're contenders, but a loss to the Houston Texans may waver depending on how the game goes. If they get beat in a dominant fashion, then that's tough. But I'm not about to have Bills Mafia come after me, calling their team a pretender after I had to sit there on Thursday Night Football and watch them dismantle the Miami Dolphins. So this team has a lot of young talent, a lot of young guys stepping up, playing at a high level. They're beat up. They have some of their best players on IR. Von Miller is starting to play like he's used to playing, but they have some injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They lost a ton of leadership on the defensive side of the ball. So for them to start 3-1 right now in this season, I think everybody counts that as a win, as a great season, as a great start. With all things considered, they lost, I think, 6 captains last year, 5 or 6 captains to either free agency or they're injured. And so for them to have this kind of start, I think they're good. They're fine. They are not pretenders. Josh Allen's here to stay. Josh Allen's legitimate. It's just a rough game.
Outside of the Minnesota Vikings, probably one of the most surprising teams in the league thus far has been the Washington Commanders. Richard, the Washington Commanders will win the NFC East. Buy or sell?
Buy. I'm buying. I'm buying what they're selling, Mitchell. They are a fun team to watch. They aren't perfect, but even when you listen to the offensive line talk, they're like, hey, this is the most fun I've had playing football. When you hear an offensive line talk about like that, they're having a good time. And the pride they're taking and protecting their quarterback. I just hope the Seattle Seahawks are at one point have that much fun protecting Geno Smith, because he would appreciate that. But Jayden Daniels has been the most accurate quarterback through 4 games in NFL history. No quarterback has had a better completion percentage through 4 games in NFL history. Not rookie quarterback, not in this decade, like in the history of the National Football League. And that means something. It's not the end all beat all. One of his incompletions was an interception, an overthrown pass, but he's taking care of the ball. He's distributing the ball to a number of receivers. Brian Robinson is running the ball well. They're balanced defensively. They're doing enough. They got the great leadership. Zach Ertz offensively is having an impact against a stabilizing force, a safety net in that offense. Defensively, Bobby Wagner is doing a good job leading that team, leading that defense, being a stabilizing veteran Hall of Fame presence, making sure they don't get too high and don't go get too low. And they're finding a way to win these games. They did a great job, scored 42 points on the offensive side of the ball and held their opponents under 15 points that game. If they can continue to play like that, especially when the other teams in their division, the Dallas Cowboys, do not look as good as they have in the past. The offensive line is a big time question mark. Is Guyton going to be good enough? They had Tyron Smith at the left tackle for so long that you're so used to just having a Hall of Fame offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys. It's not the case anymore. The Philadelphia Eagles, again, we just talked about it, are banged up, really banged up. Jason Kelsey's gone, a Hall of Famer, gone. That matters. Lane Johnson's banged up all day, always open. A.J. Brown, banged up. Devontae Smith, banged up. When that's happening, this is the perfect opportunity and the perfect storm for the Washington Commanders to make a move and to win, to squeak out a win in this division. And they have a really good head coach in Dan Quinn. Obviously, I got a lot of love for Dan Quinn, but he's just a hell of a motivator, a hell of a football coach, a schemer, putting guys in position, knows how to get the most out of people, and knows how to play defense and how to coach it. Offensively, they have a great scheme. They have the perfect scheme for their quarterback. That's why he's having the success he's having. So I'm buying that. Washington Commanders winning the NFC East. I'm on board.